This is a video responding to Shredded Nerd's video titled Halo Saved First-Person Shooters, which acts as a response to my video Halo Ruined First-Person Shooters, and DJ Cobbler's video Identity Crisis: Why Halo Isn't Infinite. If you haven't seen Shredded Nerd's video, I recommend it. It's well made and gives a lot of good information about Halo's design. Though I wish he would have responded to us separately in a Mayo section of the video and a DJ section of the video, as my comments on Halo are a bit different than DJ's, we take different tones, and he argues that Halo's gameplay isn't relevant today, and I didn't say that at all. I feel like the stuff Shredded says is mostly directed towards DJ, and I think viewers could come away thinking that I said some of the stuff he's responding to. I'm not responding to everything he said, because some of it has nothing to do with the points I'm making, and normally I don't do these response videos, but his video is really well made, brings up good points, and people are talking about it, so why not? It gives me an opportunity to clarify some stuff I've wanted to clarify for a long time. Before we start, I want to say that I agree with a lot of Shredded Nerd's comments about Halo's design and the direction it went in as it evolved, and I really like how he laid out Halo's positive influence on multiplayer gaming through the creation of lobbies and all the other stuff he said. I totally agree. On with the video. One of my channel's most misunderstood videos is my Halo video, and I'm not flat out saying that Shredded has misunderstood my video. I'm gonna clarify some stuff that I think he thought I was saying but wasn't actually saying, or maybe it was close, but a lot of people took away some unintended messages from that video. I'm not saying I'm blameless in that either. It was one of my first big opinion pieces in the early months of my channel, and if I could make it again, I'd change the way I said some things and I would add a lot more supporting points. Though I do still stand by the overall themes of the video. The first thing I want to clarify is the intention of my original video. It was a video that serves to provide an explanation of why some people feel this way, that Halo ruined FPS games. As I stated in that video, when considering to do this video or not, I was messaging my Halo fan friends saying I'm thinking about making a video about how I feel towards Halo, not reviewing Halo. And let there be no doubt, this is largely about feeling. Because I know there are other people who had this experience, who will relate to the following series of events, and who will appreciate this story. And maybe, if you're a Halo fan, you'll get to see your game through a different set of eyes for a moment. Right, it's about feelings. About the feelings I had 20 years ago. I made that video because I knew there were a lot of people out there that had these feelings and experienced things the way I did. You can see it in the comments. For every few comments saying they totally disagree, there's someone saying that they felt like I was telling their story and they appreciated hearing it. And then there's a Halo fan who never understood why people resented Halo and now they get it. Because a lot of this is emotional. That's why I chose to make that video in a way that told the story of my childhood and my introduction to games and the style of games I personally enjoyed. You'll notice in my video that when I talked about what I didn't like about Halo, I mostly, if not entirely, used the past tense to describe how I felt or to describe things I would do or think while playing it back when it came out. Was, couldn't, was, I thought. This is an important point to make that I admittedly could have made clearer in that video, because I was trying to convey how Halo felt to someone in 2001 who loved fast movement, large arsenal shooters like Unreal Tournament and Quake. I didn't enjoy Halo back then because I wanted it to be something other than what it was. That's not a feeling I have anymore, which is why I concluded my video by talking about how I have revisited Halo in recent years with a more open mind and I see it for how great it is. I would never ask Halo to change. I do not want Halo to have faster movement and full access to your arsenal and health pickups only instead of recharging shields, because then it wouldn't feel the way that it does. I believe Halo should be Halo and the people who love it should be allowed to love it, and that's all fine. Also, I did mess up with the rocket jump advanced mobility comment. I know that stuff is in the game, I've seen speedruns, I know all about it. But again, wording this part of my video in the past tense was about how it felt to me at the time, being uninformed and ignorant and rejecting Halo because it didn't fit into my definition of what a shooter should be. To me, it felt like I was just walking around really slowly and couldn't get myself moving faster. I should have clarified that those advanced mobility options do in fact exist, and that I was simply stating how it felt to me when I was playing it back when it came out. Now, about the history of slower first-person shooters. Shredded makes a large point about the popularity of CSGO, being the most popular shooter on PC. Counter-Strike has been huge forever. It was huge back when Halo came out. I acknowledge this. There's even a little note in my Halo video mentioning Counter-Strike and Half-Life being slower shooters with a lot of influence before and around the time of Halo. But this point, I'm sorry, I think is irrelevant. My video is not about the general rise of slow shooters and where these mechanics originated, whether they be cover shooters or not. It's about the focus on console-friendly shooting mechanics that were popularized by Halo. I'm not saying Halo invented all this stuff, I made that clear in my original video. I'm saying that before Halo, there were shooters on console, some of them popular in their own right, but they played like ass. They were clunky as hell, and studios simply didn't know how to take first-person shooters, a genre of games that originated on PC and was crafted to be played on mouse and keyboard, and make them work on console with these restrictive pieces of plastic in your hand where you're mostly using your thumbs. Even Alien Resurrection, a game that came out a year before Halo, had a control scheme that is now the modern standard for console shooter movement, and game reviewers thought it was awkward and bad. No one knew what they were doing, because this genre was not made for console play. But this isn't about individual games being good or bad. It's about trends and how they affect games negatively, about how popular mechanics work their way into games they have no business being in. Resistance 1 came out in 2007. It was a solid, successful console shooter for the launch of the PlayStation 3. It had a full arsenal selection, and it had health pickups in addition to regenerating health. Just 2 years later, Resistance 2 shrank the weapon limit to 2 and took out the health pickups to make it entirely regenerating health behind cover. Why? Because that's what the developers thought would play better with the console players and increase sales. And why did they think that? They thought it because of the runaway success of the Halo series, the first games to show how successful a shooter could be on console using these mechanics, and the later success of Call of Duty on console using these same mechanics. Resistance 1 played fantastically, and implementing Halo's weapon limit and regenerating health only served to make the sequel's campaign a less interesting and fun experience. And it is no surprise that in Resistance 3 they reversed their decision, returning to a full arsenal weapon wheel and a traditional health system with medkits, because Halo's mechanics did not benefit Resistance's gameplay in the slightest. But it's not just the console-friendly mechanics that made Halo successful, it's also the great gameplay and weapons and AI, art, music. It's a great game overall. But if it didn't have those console-friendly mechanics, it wouldn't have been as easy to pick up and play for console players. And that is the lesson developers took from the game. That if you do it like Halo did it, your game has a chance at console success and high sales. Halo didn't invent regenerating health and 2 weapon limits. Hell, Punch-Out on the NES has regenerating health. But Punch-Out didn't influence a wave of console shooters in the mid-2000s. And the shooters that became consolified in that time period, I guarantee you the developers were looking at how Halo did it and not how Counter-Strike was doing it over on the PC. Halo comes out in 2001 and is a massive success on console. A few years later, Call of Duty, a series that started on PC in 2003 where you had to find health pickups, then launches Call of Duty 2 on Xbox 360, and suddenly the game has recharging health. Isn't that interesting? Follow that with the other AAA shooters trying to copy Halo and Call of Duty's mechanics, and the rise of third-person cover shooters that continue the formula of 2 weapon limits and recharging health, and you can see how we eventually end up with games that are so dumbed down that they think as long as you have these mechanics that Halo and Call of Duty proved could be successful, you don't have to worry about anything else like AI or level design or any of that hard stuff. Stuff that Halo did great, future developers completely ignored it, which is a point that Shredded makes in his video when he says that companies tried to copy Halo and failed. So we're in agreement about this. Mechanics need to benefit the gameplay of the game they're in. God of War QTEs served a gameplay purpose and required quick decision making because different QTEs would yield orbs, magic, health, crowd control options. It worked well for the game it was in, but then other studios thought if they just put some QTEs in their game with cool cinematic animations, it'll make their game better. And it didn't. It sucked. It resulted in everyone coming to hate any kind of QTE in any game. Let's move on to the slow argument. Shredded takes issue with me saying the game felt slow. Again, that was my reaction to the game 20 years ago. He says the gameplay of Halo is actually quite fast, and I agree. When the combat really gets flowing in Halo, the combat is fast and there's good in-the-moment decision-making to be done. So he wonders if I'm simply talking about movement, and the answer is yes, I am talking about movement speed. Coming from Unreal Tournament on PC, where you're flying around the map with a translocator and teleporting, and then picking up a clunky original Xbox controller and slowly walking and turning in Halo is like whiplash. I really didn't like it. It is very slow movement. But if you made the movement in Halo much faster, you'd completely break the game, because the AI and levels would have to be redesigned to compensate. The slow movement is a complementary factor to the combat. It works for the gameplay loop they created. That's why I say I wouldn't change Halo. It's a good gameplay loop, just not one that I particularly enjoy. And it sucked to see this slow movement that's more friendly to console play infect games that I loved. Just look at the Aliens vs. Predator series. The difference in speed from AVP2 in 2001 to AVP in 2010 is astonishing. It went from being one of the fastest shooters I knew to a slow console shooter. You can't say that games didn't change to suit the needs of console players, and you can't say that Halo being so successful with these mechanics wasn't the main cause. When I say that Halo ruined first-person shooters, this is what I'm talking about. You pick up AVP 2010 on PC because you love AVP 1 and 2 on PC, and it plays like a console game because that's the audience that was prioritized, and now you're playing something that's been handicapped for controllers. I know that old school arena shooters were on their way out. I just don't like that they got replaced by this. As for Halo being a cover shooter, no, it's not strictly a cover shooter. But the game does suggest to a new player that it's an important part of the game. Combat spaces are filled with cover opportunities, enemies use cover against you during combat, and a recharging health mechanic works best when you can take a moment to hide from enemies and wait, meaning you need to find cover. It's not the primary gameplay mechanic like Uncharted, but it certainly told the rest of the industry that they need to do that in their games. And yeah, my gameplay footage is slow because I'm not a Halo player. I'm a guy going into the game who doesn't know the ins and outs of Halo, and I'm playing on a high difficulty because I like a good challenge. I don't mind dying a bunch of times. And running around in the open as a brand new player on a high difficulty while I'm trying to get better at the game just results in me getting killed. I know there's more active non-cover ways to play the game, but the first playthrough experience for a new player is hands down the most important experience there is, and if you're not at least somewhat engaging in the aspects of the cover system and being cautious, you're gonna die. Shredded mentions examples of cover in old hitscan shooters like the original Doom and Blood, and that's true, though moments of taking cover in the original Doom are kinda rare. Yeah, there are hitscan enemies that'll hit you if you aren't behind cover, but the game has a lot of health pickups and your guns are really powerful and easy to spray, so the majority of your time is gonna be out in the open blasting demons. You'll have moments when you're taking cover, and that's fine. I'm not saying that having to take cover is inherently bad. I'm not saying any of this stuff is bad. I just got really sick of seeing it everywhere. I'd see a new game coming out and say, hey, that looks cool, I'm gonna try that one out. Damn it, more cover mechanics and slow movement and weapon limits and regenerating health. Can't you see how that can be frustrating? I didn't want every game that grabbed my attention to end up being something that played like Halo or Call of Duty. And you know what? I don't want every game to play like Doom either. I want games to have their own vision and implement the mechanics that would best serve their gameplay. That's why, in the conclusion of my original video, I'm feeling good. because it feels like we're finally in a time where all of us can have something to be happy about, and games are free to experiment more with their mechanics and gameplay. That's really nice. I'm also gonna say that I disagree with Shredded's point that the new Doom games are completely different from the originals just with a coat of Doom paint. What's important in making a modern big-budget sequel to an old series is to innovate while keeping the spirit of the original. The perfect example is Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat 1 was just digitized actors doing standing jabs, jump kicks, and low attacks with a couple special moves. 30 years later, we've had Mortal Kombat games that have been in 3D spaces using multiple fighting styles, we've seen the introduction of super moves and enhanced special meters, push block, armored attacks, the dial-a-combo system. They still have the spirit of Mortal Kombat despite being their own very unique games. Games can have sequels in later generations that feature new core gameplay mechanics and even genre changes. Ninja Gaiden 1 started as an arcade Double Dragon style beat-em-up and then came to the Nintendo as a side-scrolling platformer, and then returned in 2004 to critical acclaim as a 3D hack-and-slash title, with a modern upgrade system, air juggle combos, and all kinds of stuff that makes it its own game. But it still feels like it earns the right to use the name Ninja Gaiden because they share the same DNA. If Ninja Gaiden had come back as a turn-based RPG, then we would have a problem. Classic Doom was about fast, in-your-face bloody action, awesome energetic and moody music, gross violence, powerful weapons, large arsenals and weapon variety, and yes, resource management. You got ammo from enemies that you killed, you were rewarded for exploring and finding secrets, and a new player on their first playthrough of Doom 1, playing on hard, not knowing where all the secrets are, is regularly gonna find themselves low on ammo, especially rockets. It does scrap the maze-like map design, but beyond that, I think the new games are very much in line with the original games. So this video wasn't made to start drama, it was really just to say to Shredded that I understand what you're trying to say, and I wanted to make what I'm trying to say a little clearer, for everybody. Shredded seems like a guy with a good head on his shoulders, and I'd rather we work together towards fighting for good, and I hope Halo Infinite is something that we can both enjoy. I'm sorry if it sounded like I was angry at any point in this video, I just get excited when I talk about this stuff, there's no anger here. Alright guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope my thoughts on Halo and its effect on games are a little clearer, and I'll see you real soon.